Hi there, friends. Today I wanted to talk about habit creation and how to generate or help you generate new habits. Now, there is nothing we can't do if we have the right habits in place. Now, it's not going to be easy or effortless or fast to generate a new habit, but it's absolutely doable. So a habit, you can't just go and erase it from your head. Unfortunately, you will have to work to generate a new habit in place of this old one. Now, for me, for a long time, I had some really bad habits: drinking alcohol excessively, eating chocolate excessively as well. But somehow I managed to change those habits. Now, looking retrospectively, even though it took me a long time, I realized that it is possible to actually make those changes with more ease if we know the blueprint of how to change habits. Now, for me, one of the first things that I needed to do is to figure out why it is that I was doing something. What were my triggers for doing these habits? So, for example, one of the triggers for me was that if I got stressed in a life situation, work situation, friends or family situation, I would reach out for alcohol and then later on for chocolate. And both of those are unhealthy habits. They don't support my body. It don't make me feel good. So what do I mean by knowing your triggers? Knowing why it is that we do the things that we do. So that is the first thing we need to figure out. Why am I actually reaching out for that donut when I full well know that that is not good for me? So there are these kind of unconscious clues at this point that will be driving your habits, unless you have figured those out already. But those will be hindering you if you are not clear on the triggers. So today, for example, when there is a stressful situation, any kind of stressful situation, my reaction is to automatically go out for a run. It's absolutely not reaching. I don't drink at all anymore, except at special occasions. And I'm going to explain to you why that is possible. Then I read a book maybe a few years ago by Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. Magnificent. Anybody who wants to change a habit has to read this book. It is absolutely amazing what kind of research he has done, and he talks about habit loops and things like that. And interesting enough, the first thing is there is a cue somewhere, the reason why we're doing it, and he talks about that. And he also talks about the next step, which I wasn't consciously aware, but now I am, since having read the book, is that there needs to be a reward. Now, Tony Robbins talks about pain and pleasure as well, triggers and things like that. But Charles Duhigg focuses very much in around that this habit loop he talks about has to have, at the end, once we've done the habit, a reward. And the reason is that this is a we are generating a neurological craving through reward, because what happens is when the reward is strong enough, it generates endorphins, which therefore endorphins are free to help us generate that habit. And when there are these neurological cravings associated to a habit, we are more likely to push through. Necessity, for example, of course generates habits, but it's not as powerful. It's not much fun. And if, let's say, you're diagnosed with cancer and you then stop smoking, it might be too late, and also it might make you go back once the cancer has been cured to smoking. So it's not as bulletproof either than actually getting something from us from within. When you set yourself on to do this habit, which before you didn't really like, you now know that there's a reward, a prize at the end. So it's not only the benefits of this that you know consciously, but there's actually a physiological reward to to the habit that you are trying to generate, and it will push it through and boost for you to be able to make it sustainable. So if, for example, you can't seem to stop reaching out for that donut or the chocolate or alcohol, it's more likely that you haven't placed enough reward for the new habit of instead of alcohol going for a run, or instead of the chocolate reaching out for nuts and an apple. So you need to work on making the reward bigger. And I'm going to give you some examples of, for example, how I've made my rewards unconsciously at the time, but now consciously make them bigger. So if you want to change a habit, so one of the things you need to look into is to figure out what's your prize, not only benefits, but the prize that you're going to get out of pushing through this habit. And the bigger the healthier the prize, the more likely it's going to stick. So, for example, if you feel like reaching out when you're at work and you feel like going for the cigarette or reaching out for that chocolate, if you are somebody who really enjoys meaningful conversations with your friends or colleagues, then do that. Swap the going for a cigarette or reaching for chocolate and walk to ask somebody to come out for tea with you and have a chat. That would be a meaningful prize for not reaching out for that chocolate. For me, when I used to get stressed, I used to reach out for alcohol and then later on for chocolate. And now I go for a run, or I dance, or I cycle, or I do any form of exercise that raises the heartbeat and makes me feel good. Because the reward for that is that, one, I'm pumping myself full with wonderful endorphins. I'm in nature. I'm achieving something instead of reaching out for that chocolate, which I shouldn't be doing, which makes me feel pain in my stomach, or same thing with alcohol. I get that kind of brain space, that kind of detachment from a stressful situation, which is a huge prize. But what I realized through reading my Charles Duhigg's book is that the thing that made me push through all of my exercise regimes is the biggest reward ever, is the fear of going back to having mental health problems. Now, in my early 20s, I used to have a lot of mental health problems. I was suicidal as well at times. And the pain I felt in those days is a wonderful reminder where I don't want to be. So suddenly the activity of exercising becomes so rewarding because I feel so good afterwards, compared to this old habit that I used to have of being very negative. So for me, that is the topper on all of the rewards that I get from exercising. And another thing that I do is I help myself out a bit. For example, when I used to start to cycle to commute, and when I used to still work for other employers, I used to commute 15 kilometers a day, and when I started it, I started to get really painful calves. Now, at those days, when I got home from work, doing the 9 to 5, I then worked on building my coaching practice. So I felt like stretching was wasting my time. So what I then did is I just ignored the pain. And of course, as you cycle more, I cycled 5 days a week. At the weekends, I was in a lot of pain. That made me have to generate a new habit of stretching, which I wasn't doing at the moment at that time. And I went and bought myself a yoga mat, and then didn't do any stretches. It was in the corner and wasn't used. So then I figured out that to be able to get to that yoga mat, when I got home, I had to literally put the yoga mat in a place, roll it out in a place where I couldn't miss it. So I had to go and sit on that yoga mat. instantly after coming home. Even if I was hungry, I was sweaty, whatever, I needed to go and sit on that yoga mat. So I did, but I didn't do any stretches. But it took a few, maybe a week for me to roll out that yoga mat, sit on it and not do anything, until I realized the benefit. Once when I then actually did some exercises, realized the benefit of how my legs felt afterwards, and that was it. I was hooked. So to this day, I do my yoga stretches in the morning, in the evening, whether I'm cycling, running, whatever. But as I usually I'm active in the day, so I need to do the stretches. So they're a benefit for my health. But the other thing I do also is, when I started my running habit, was to place my running gear in a place where I would see it before the end of the working day. So I just couldn't miss it. That was a cue to pop them on, get out. And also, what I would do sometimes is, in my breaks, I would then put that gear on, so it was ready on me. It was a reminder, after work, you need to go out for a run. So I hope these tips have been helpful, at least to give you some idea. Absolutely go and read that book by Charles Duhigg, Power of Habit. I absolutely must read. So to generate a habit, the 3 tips that we talked about today was to firstly figure out your triggers. Why is it that you're doing something or not doing something? And then make the reward as big as possible and healthy. And then help yourself out with these little action plans to remind yourself that you need to be doing this action. So if you enjoyed today's monthly vlog, please do sign up below, and hopefully I'll see you in your inbox in the next month. Thanks for watching. Bye now.